Hey everybody, KC0VII Tom here, along with Mr. Duke. We had a busy day today. We've been outside working. Oh, tilt it down a little bit. Got to get the star on the show. We've been working outside. As you can see in the greenhouse, we have all the plants in. It's supposed to get down to 25 tonight here in Iowa, St. Ansgar. It's going to be quite cool. See if it does get down. I kind of think it's going to be below freezing, but I think it's not going to get that bad. But one nice thing about it, that's going to kill all the freaking little bugs. All the little no-see-um, all the little Japanese beetle. It's going to put a stunt on the hay fever season, so I can actually be able to see what I'm doing without my eyes watering. And again, summer's done, fall's winding down. We'll be getting snow flurries here soon. You want to get down so I can talk to our fans? Huh? Yeah. Anybody want a dog cheap? We live in a small town, St. Ansgar, Iowa. It's got roughly 1,085 or 86 people at the last census. And it's one of those places where you usually get people to talk to you when you're at either the post office, the food center, which is a grocery store, or the local hardware store. And it's kind of comical, you know. You be running around town and you get to these places and people, hey, how's it going? And we'll be talking. And a couple weeks ago, let's see, I had a club t-shirt on because I think I was running up to an event up in Austin and I was out of cat food. So I ran in and got some cat food at the grocery store, and there was a guy and his son that I know, and he is, well, we'll say he's younger than me, but I'm not going to say how many years, but it's a good chunk of change. And his son is just getting into high school at the time. And the son looked at my shirt and I was trying to pronounce KC0VII as a word. I said, no, it's just call signs. You just roll the letters and numbers out. He goes, oh, sort of like ham radio. And I go, yeah. And he turned to his dad and says, isn't that what Grandpa used to do? He goes, yeah, but that's all died out now. I comment, no, it hasn't. It's we have over 750,000 licensed operators in the United States, the most that ever's been here in the United States. You know, it's a hobby that is growing, but it's one of those quiet hobbies. A lot of people don't know about it. We were sitting there talking a little bit because that kind of intrigued the old man. And I was telling him, says, your grandpa probably had a couple of great big radios. He goes, oh yeah, they were big, and we were told not to touch them or they'd break our arms. The typical back in that time in the 50s and 60s. That's how you ran your family. You controlled your kids with brute force. Or threaten to brute force. How times change. And they probably had what we called AM, which is amplitude modulation, and CW, Morse code. He goes, yeah, Dad was pretty good at CW. And he was always trying to get me into it, and I just couldn't understand it. I said, yeah, I understand. I know how that is. And it says, now we have more operators, and also we have more places to play, or more places to do our hobby. Grab my cheat sheet here. Like it says, we got roughly 750,000 licensed hams in the United States alone. In the world, there's 3 million roughly. So, and a lot of these, we can talk to all of them. There's only a few countries that don't allow their citizens to talk to other countries, and we won't name any names. But the AM is still out there. There's a lot of nice AM groups. We'll talk stuff here in a minute about. CW, I tried to do CW. TLJ was trying to get the knack of CW that last year she was alive. But she just couldn't, like me, the hearing isn't quite good enough. I suppose if I would have sat down, or her sat down a little bit longer, we might have got it. Now we have FM, frequency modulation, which is kind of nice. RTTY is still out there, or is out there. We got single sideband that came out in the mid-70s, if I remember right. So those are your voice traffic, along with, we got the FT family and the PSK family, your digital modes, you kind of like RTTY, but different ways of doing it. Also, you had slow scan TV now, or digital TV, another one that's coming along the race. Sounds like slow scans getting pushed out by people. Other companies want that frequency band. So like the old C-band satellite systems you used to have in your backyard, the Greek 10, 12-foot dishes. I installed a lot of those at radio TV stations, and now that frequency spread is being eyed very seriously about another company, your cell phone people, and they're talking about eliminating C-band technology for radio and TV stations, which will be a big problem. EME, I kind of wander if you're new to the channel. EME, Earth, Moon to Earth bounce, where you blast a signal off at a high power, and it hits the moon, comes back in the low power, and that's how you talk, with moon bounce. We have Echolink and WinLink, which is a kind of a hybrid with the, excuse me, which is kind of a hybrid with the internet, where the radios and the repeaters are connected to the internet, and then you can actually do pretty neat stuff. I was at the hardware store talking to this dad and his son. I pulled out my iPhone, which has Echolink app on it, and I go, "You got any friends, relatives somewhere in the country?" He goes, "Yeah, aunt and uncle live down in by Indianapolis." So I scrolled to the list and found a repeater that was online. Sure, when I called out, and I said KC0VII. Anybody out there? I have a demo going on with some people about ham radio. Had a guy come back real quick, talk to where he was at, and what the weather was, and I kind of keyed up the Echolink app and pointed at the sun, and he, said he was, and what the weather was in St. Ansgar, released it. They had a little short cue through there, and it was really impressed the old man more than impressed the kid. The kid thought it was cool, but the old man thought it was really neat. So there's a lot more places we can play with out there. We also have our digital modes, instead of the AM or FM modulation, we have D-Star, we have DMR, we'll talk about DMR here a little bit more, C4FM, and APCO 25. That one blew me away. I thought the government was keeping APCO 25 just for public services, but it sounds like there are some hams out there using it for a modulation scheme. DMR. I had a hard time with DMR, understanding DMR, until I finally realized that I bought that CJ1 radio, which is DMR radio, and I was trying to set it up, and I just kind of understand it. And I was in one of the chat groups talking to him about it, and the guy says, "Hold on, give me your number." And he called me up. We were sitting there talking. There's actually two types of DMR. I didn't know that. I knew who the dumbest person in the room was. And also the light went on my head, why I was having so much trouble. You have DMR, which is a modulation scheme you run through the repeaters. Then you have DMR over IP, which doesn't use the RF. It actually uses the internet to pass traffic. You key up, you set up your radio for DMR over IP. You use your hotspot, or CJ1's got a built-in hotspot. You go through the internet to somebody else's hotspot and you talk to them. Kind of a neat deal. And so that one was kind of, I want to get more into DMR over the IP. That seems like a pretty neat deal. Then we have our satellites, small Earth orbiting satellites, CubeSats. With some software, you can figure out where you're going to aim and the antenna and when your satellite's coming overhead, and make your contacts like that. And let's not forget about the ISS. We have times when the astronauts up there, if they're amateur operators, they'll get on the radio and talk down to us. Well, bad choice of words. They'll talk to us. There's also that repeater up there on the ISS. Yeah. I thought it was kind of hilarious when they first turned that on. It was just noise coming out, and everybody thought, "Uh-oh, something's wrong. It's broken." Until somebody sat down and says, "No, that's a pileup. So many people are trying to get into that repeater when they turned it on." And it was just like a normal pileup. So, we have a lot of places we can actually practice this hobby, or as I say, play out there. And a lot of these new people out there, new hams or newbies, we'll call them, don't be afraid to get up there and talk. Thing I always tell people, once you get your license, my oldest daughter got her license, and we just got her to a general. A lot of her friends are going through the process of getting their license, and a lot of them want to get their general or extra, which is great. I said, okay, once you get that technician's license, you have your 70 centimeters UHF and 2 meters VHF, and a little bit of the 28 megahertz band to play with. I think there's some other little bands here and there. First thing you want to do is pick up, depending if you're in a large town, small town, or real small town like St. Ansgar, get a used handheld or a small mobile. Either go out and buy a used one, or buy a cheap Chinese or Red Daddy, like this guy here. I paid $75 for this. This is my disposable one. You take this when I go camping. VHF, UHF, 2 bands. If you find a club, a lot of times you show up at a club meeting and say, "Hi, I just got my license. I just want to see." Or if you're just looking at getting your license, just say you want to sit in the back and listen to what's going on. I'll tell you one thing that's going to happen. They're going to say, "Oh no, you're not sitting back there. You're going to sit up front here with us," And don't be surprised at the end of the meeting, you get a couple old geezers like me come up and says, "Well, if you get your license, or if you have your license, you got a radio? I got this Kenwood. I got this ICOM I'm not using. You want to borrow it for a while?" It happens quite a bit. Thing to do is get a radio, either borrow one, buy a used one, buy a brand new one. If you're in a large town where there's a lot of repeaters, get a handheld and get on one of the radio books, repeater booklets, and load up some local repeaters. Listen to what we call nets. If you're in a smaller town or a town like St. Ansgar, look around for a mobile and a power supply. Put a small antenna outside the house so you can actually listen to the repeaters in your area. Once you start monitoring the repeater traffic, one thing you notice, they have what we call nets. A net is a meeting that's scheduled to happen at a certain time of day. Pretty much on your VHF, UHF, your 2 meter and 70 centimeter bands, a lot of those nets are weekly. They'll, here in Iowa and southern Minnesota, we have on Sunday night at 6 or 6:30. I got a calendar event on my computer. It reminds me of a lot of this stuff. Then at 7 o'clock, Austin has a weekly net. Albert Lea used to have theirs at 8. Their repeater antenna went bad, and they're in the process of getting replaced, so that has not been happening lately. Owatonna's at 8:30, which is just north of me. I have a hard time getting in Owatonna. The conditions have to be just right for me to get in there. And there, Rochester, there's a couple nets on Sunday night. Then throughout the week, there's other nets going on. There are some nets on those repeaters that are daily throughout the week. When you get in the HF bands, there's a lot of nets that happen daily. One of the nets that we got into, I came across when we were camping one weekend, is the RV net. Every morning from 6 o'clock till 8 o'clock Central Time in the morning, 7191, 7.191 megahertz. It's the RV nets. Well, it's one of the oldest and biggest nets in the country. The only time they don't have their morning net is on field day weekends. They will take a step back and allow the contesters to actually use those frequencies. But I mean, I came across that one time and got up in the morning, made my coffee, closed the door to the bedroom so TLJ could sleep in, turned it on. I thought I had it down low enough, but she actually heard and woke up, and she loved to talk on the radio anyway. And they ran through their list of people that checked in. They're ready, they were in the process of calling for new ones. I'd reach over to the microphone, and she said, "Don't touch that mic. Get me a cup of tea, and I'll take care of it." So that's how she was when it came to running the radio. Contactors. I always tell everybody, I was tech support. She was the operator. Now on these nets, there's a couple of different ways they operate. Most of the nets around here, they just use a standard deal. You have one person who is the net controller. He runs the show. First thing a lot of times they'll do is explain what the net is for. Again, it's practice your amateur radio operations. Check your equipment, make sure it is operating. If you've done any new work on your radios, got a new radio or repaired a radio or put a new antenna up or did something different to your antenna, it's a good way of checking how good it's operating. Is it better? Is it worse than what you had? So that's one nice thing about these nets. Then they'll do like emergency traffic or normal announcements or any messages for the national traffic. After all that is done, if there's any, then a lot of these nets will ask for low power or mobile units, and these are people that are moving through the area, or they don't have a lot of power and they may be hard to get into the system with all the other people trying to get in at the same time. So they go through that. Then they'll ask for, and this one you gotta be careful, they'll say general traffic. First couple of times I was listening, I said, well, I'm just a technician, I can't check in. That's general. No, when they mean general traffic, that means everybody can check in, not just your mobiles and your low power people, but all the other operators. And some operators, net controllers will actually allow 10 to 15 people to check in. He writes them down, and he goes through. There's other operators, they'll take like 3 to 5 and stop, work with those people, then again call out for more contacts. You get another 3 or 5. Nets are ran differently. That's why it's really neat to actually start popping around on the bands. Listen to all these other nets. Listen to them the first couple of times and just see how it's done. There are some other nets, they're called roundtable nets, where the guy says, the operator will start saying, okay, everybody check in. Everybody will check in. They go down the line, and he'll call up the very first person. He'll give what he wants to talk about. A lot of times it's any new equipment changes or the weather or anything new in their life. Then on these roundtable ones, he hands it off to the person behind him. Then when that person's done, he hands it off to the person behind him. Those you have to pay attention, because I got caught one time, I wasn't paying attention. All of a sudden I heard my call sign. Yeah, what's up? He goes, it's your turn. I go, oh, okay. And I'm not sure who I was supposed to hand it off to, but the person did pop up and thanked me, and off we went. So again, listen to how those nets are operated. and just see, you know, what procedures you should follow. The nets can be a lot of fun. Again, listen to them, figure out how, you know, to work the radio. Again, and if you're really worried about it, when you check in, it says, hey, KC0VII, I'm a newbie, I just got my license not too long ago. Bam, they'll really come out of the woodwork to help you then. So if you do something wrong, they'll say, hey, no, that's not how we do it. Or instead of that, do it this way. I've never heard anybody get yelled at or chewed out on the radio for doing something wrong. I mean, it is, unless it's something really seriously, and a lot of times it's off the channel. Somebody will call them up on the phone or come over and visit the person. And like he says, I've never been involved with that. I don't want to get involved with something like that. But I mean, it's a flexible neighborhood, we'll say. So Mr. Rogers would have been proud of us on that. Ooh, I got to show you off my new, my new shirt. And this is mainly for my local grocery store. As you can see, the Schmidt is in red, John. Kind of living my life. This was one of the logos that we used to have on the side of one of our beer trucks when I was younger. Family ran business. Now one of the other breweries has bought the label and is actually reselling it. And it's kind of a comical story. We'll talk some other time about how I got Schmidt into the local grocery store. And Duke's around here somewhere. Duke, you want to say goodbye? Hey! Dogs. Again, nets are fun. Start checking them out. Do a web search on nets in your area or nets, and there's a lot of information out there, especially in the HF band. Man, there are nets left and right. You could probably spend all day sitting in the shack just playing on the radio, just going from net to net. On that, going to get cold tonight. Tomorrow, got to do a little more work on the leaves. They're falling down pretty good. Get them all chopped up. We'll have to have a moment of silence probably next week. Putting the camper into winter rest. Don't like doing that. And got some other stuff we'll be working on here soon. I do have one good surprise, and hopefully we get that all taken care of for the end of the year. 7-3, everybody. Take care.
Be sure to tell your friends, neighbors, other hams. Subscribe, hit that bell to get notification when new videos come out. Add comments below. 7-3, everybody.
Okay, open in 3, 2. Hey everybody, KC0VI